I wanna be the very best, like no one ever was. To catch them is my real test, to train them is my cause. I will travel across the land, searching far and wide, each Pokemon to understand the power that's inside. Pokemon, gotta catch 'em all. It's you and me. I know it's my destiny. Pokemon, oh, you're my best friend in a world we must defend. Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the second installment of digital illustration in Sketchbook Mobile App Ivysaur edition. I'm still just drawing with my thumb like a fool because I never picked up a stylus. But we're back at long last, and that's all that matters. I decided to time lapse this one because yeah, I just spent a lot of time hyper fixating on Pokemon jewelry and accessories, and I wasn't sure people really wanted 3 hours of that. I'm not one of these speed painters, okay? This takes me time. I get in the zone and I'm just doing my thing, and yeah, time lapse was best since what I really should be doing is doing the rendering, blocking in the shading and the highlights. But I started customizing my Ivysaur in the last episode. Uh, giving her earrings and nose ring and such. And I kind of wanted to continue that vein before I fully rendered the drawing. I should have just gone ahead and done the shading and then come back and done the accessories after, because then I'd have a fully rendered Ivysaur at the end of this video instead of the next one that I could have just tacked on the accessories to later and made any highlights and shading changes then. Order of operations, sometimes you change up your workflow because you feel like it. And that's the nice thing about drawing, is that you can do that. I'm testing out a new lav mic on this one, so I'll have to go back and compare the audio here to how it sounded on the previous video without the microphone attachment, just using my phone's built-in microphone. My phone has a pretty good microphone, but this has the added benefit that I don't get that terrible clicking noise when I pause the recording every time that I have to go back out and edit later, because the microphone is removed from the phone itself, the controls. So that saves me some time in editing, which is always nice because I spent most of my time in editing. I'm not using it as a proper lav mic should be, however, because clothing rustle, that noise of the camera or the microphone rubbing against your clothing as you move, and I move a lot. I have a hard time sitting still. I have ADHD like a mofo. That impacts your sound quality in a big way, as I found when I used lav mics making my short film. You really gotta tape them down good so that they're not wiggling around when the clothing moves. Otherwise, you just get a lot of gentle scraping noises. So I have it set up like a directional desk mic. It's clipped onto a little toolbox here I have sitting on my desk. Um, but so far, the sound quality seems pretty good. I'm not entirely convinced that it is better than the built-in microphone on the phone. And I have to, it's got a part that plugs in, it doesn't use Bluetooth, it's got a part that plugs in to the phone itself, which means I have to take it out of its case, which I don't like to do because I'm clumsy and I drop my phone a lot. But I'll do the Pepsi challenge, between this video and the last one and see which one has better audio. Anyway, yeah, I decided to give Ivysaur a necklace. I was going for some kind of flower necklace. I still haven't really decided if I like it, if there's something else I'd rather do. I spent a lot of time here trying to get this gemstone to look right. I probably should have pulled up a reference, maybe imported it here into Sketchbook and traced it or something because it's kind of holding things up right now. We're spent a lot of time refining this gemstone shape, but I kind of had a gym badge in mind when I was trying to design this necklace. I figured I'd use the gemstone to tie the colors of the eyes and the flower bulb together. So first I match it here with the base color to the flower bulb. But then I come back later and I add some blue to it to shift it a little bit more towards the color that Ivysaur's eyes are. Color coordination is important when accessorizing, okay? I'm using a lot of layers here, and that is for several reasons. One, because the selection tool leaves something to be desired in the mobile sketchbook app. It's not real easy to control or very precise, so it's much easier to make changes like color adjustments if I can just quickly circle a large area instead of having to select specific details individually within a layer. Also because I want a lot of opacities, maybe some blend modes to create different effects, highlights and things on the gem itself and in other areas, I'll come back to on the eyes. And also because I've added, since the last episode, I've added a toned paper background. I like to draw on toned paper. It's a lot more intuitive feeling when you have to work up to the whites rather than trying to fill in all the whites and only leave the brightest highlights as pure white. It's a little easier on toned paper because is that saves you a step of filling in the midtones. And it's something I brought from traditional drawing illustration on my tone paper sketchbooks into digital illustration just by taking a picture of a page in my toned paper sketchbook and importing it as a background here. I'm going to set the opacity of all my layers plus or minus 80% so that the grain of the paper shows through the little fibers. The tooth I think it's called. And that gives a little texture to the image and a little bit more interest. The word I'm looking for. And I like that in my digital illustrations. I don't like staring at white screens. They give me a migraine. So I've become pretty fond of using this toned paper effect in my digital illustrations lately. But to make changes on a given layer, especially if it involves painting in color, I generally have to turn the opacity back up because I'm using the eyedropper tool to select back to my color. And if it's not fully opaque, the layer that you're working on, that you're selecting your color from, you'll get a different shade and it'll be noticeable. So yeah, you'll see me doing that throughout the video, probably adjusting the opacity of my layers so that I can use the color picker and make changes. And I'll go back later and erase color from areas that are completely covered, like under the necklace, from the base color layers below it, because of the having all my layers set to some amount of opacity and trying to get that paper texture to come through evenly throughout the drawing so it feels like a drawing rather than a too sharp digital illustration. I like a little bit of that hand-drawn feel. Also, it's really difficult in the app drawing with just a finger or the side of my thumb to get hard, smooth lines and well-defined curves. So I'm using a little bit of a more painterly method than my usual line work illustration type stuff where I'm working with sharper, more controlled lines. There's more softness and blending going on although with the details that I'm putting in on a lot of these accessories, I am using a more hard-edged brush than I was previously, especially in the majority of the line work in the first video. I was using a brush with soft edges, and here I am using a little bit harder lines with the marker here in order to create these fine details. And line weight variation is a good thing. The thicker lines on the character outline make it stand out. Whereas if I did that with the necklace, I wouldn't be able to put much detail in, for one thing. And for two, you don't want the accessories to distract too much from the overall image. You want them to add to it without overwhelming it. It's like a soft focal point with the gemstone here. I'm not trying to outshine Ivysaur herself. So I've got a pretty decent gemstone here. And I want to merge these layers so that I can select and transform and shrink it down. And that looks pretty good there. So I'm still trying to decide what I want to do as I'm going along. Working from a real well-defined plan here. We're just winging it for the heck of it, like we do. Still not sure that I really love this necklace design, but it'll work till I come up with something better, I suppose. And I'm just gonna block in some heavy gothic wristbands. Fill in the collar to match. Thick black faux leather for our gothic Ivysaur here. And that looks pretty good. And a nice black collar to match. I go back and forth here trying to do some refinement. I can't remember what pen and what settings I was using in the initial line work. I really should have gone back and watched that first video to match that for this layer because it is a line work layer, but I didn't feel like it, and I just decided to go for it. So I'm using the heavy line weight here with the heavy flow, so the edges aren't blendy like they are with the original line work layer, which gives it a little bit of a blending shadow-like feel. And so the collar stands out a little bit for not having that edge, but maybe I'll come back later and try to get that effect going on with did go back in between this video and the last one and refine the line work somewhat, erasing some of those soft edges around the outside of the figure so that it didn't blend too much into its background. I like to have a little bit harder edge on the outside and a little bit softer edge on the inside. So I just come through with the eraser and make that happen. But still, I think this layer could use some softening of the lines. Which you just don't get with the marker tool. It's like a fine liner. I don't know if I was using one of the brushes or maybe it was the fountain pen. Couldn't have been the watercolor brush. Maybe it was the fountain pen with a medium flow. Maybe I could spot it in the original video. Go back and look. Refining some details, making adjustments. Trying to make the belt look a little more, or the collar look a little bit more three-dimensional. Wrap around the back of the head there. I go for a silvery buckle here. The base jewelry I made more base jewelry. The earrings and the septum piercing I made more of a bluish silver. Not sure if I want to try to make those match or not. I may leave them, but we'll see when I add the highlights how it looks. Always do the highlights in shadow last. Something I learned in drawing class, if you start rendering too early, then it becomes really difficult to fix mistakes. You spend a lot of time working on a head only to realize at the end that it's much too big for the body. That happened to me a lot. But I grew up drawing cartoons, and big heads are not too. They're normal. They're the big heads are the norm in cartoons and animation. But my drawing teacher was not amused at my big heads. And here is my flower. I think I have improved on the shape of it a bit. Again, it's a bit sloppy trying to draw with your thumb on the phone. Not quite the control that I am accustomed to. Here I have decided that I want to redo the outline. So I'm going to take that, erase that away. Like the way the base color layer came out. Pretty good shape. So kind of debating whether I want to abandon the black outline for the necklace, since it is a fine detail and doesn't need a heavy outline. I could have a more subtle shading here with the shades of gray, but then I think I will redraw the outline again instead, because it just doesn't feel like it matches the rest of the drawing without it. It looks more cut out. Doesn't look like it's a separate piece. Might as well be painted on. But managed to make a decent, better anyway, looking ring to suspend the flower from. And that's starting to look better. Just a little thing. And now I'm going to hyperfixate on the metal, trying to make it look reflective when I should be saving that for the rendering stage. Leave that for later. And now I'm going to work on the shape of the buckle for a bit. Natural. And go back to the flower again. ADHD in action, folks. Bring this down, lift it around so it actually looks like it's hanging from the ring. And going back to the Ivysaur skin color layer, painting the area that I deleted earlier for opacity's sake. And it still looks weird. Let's see what we can do about that. Make the ring a little bit smaller. And redraw the outline around the flower. And I did not create a dark outline for the gem, so I'm going to duplicate it, color transform the copy, and erase the middle out of it rather than draw an outline around the gem again. Just a little time saving hack. Not sure how much time it really saves, but maybe more frustration than time is it saving. Of me trying to draw straight lines with the side of my thumb on my phone. And then I'm going to go back to work on the wrist cuffs here. We can make them look a little bit more natural. Wrapping around the wrist there. And now that we're done adjusting the base color skin layer, I'm going to drop its opacity back down and oh, there's a little gap in the line work here. I don't have the right brush opacity to match it, so I'm going to use eraser opacity to make up the difference. It's close enough. It's notice it's so small. Anyway, yeah, who's a good boy? Ivysaur is. So I'm gonna erase the base color layers underneath the wrist cuffs and the collar here so that I can get that paper texture to show through evenly through all the layers. Get a little bit of that texture on the wrist cuffs. Get that old-timey traditional drawing feel. What do you do with the grumpy Ivysaur? What do you do with the grumpy Ivysaur? What do you do with the grumpy Ivysaur early in the morning? Put 'em in the bathtub, Miracle Grow. Put 'em in the bathtub, Miracle Grow. Put 'em in the bathtub, Miracle Grow. And oops, I erased the shine off of that buckle. Why I shouldn't have bothered putting it in the first place. Painted it on the wrong layer anyway. Typical. I'm gonna go back and thicken the outline on the necklace here. And I'm going to attempt to use spikes on the wristy cuffs here. And this is not as easy as I thought it would be. It's looking a little sloppy, but maybe it's time for another speed. It's looking a little rough, I'm not gonna lie. We'll get there eventually. Probably. Maybe. And I'm going to try to suggest the pyramid shape of the spikes using nothing but triangles. We'll see how it goes. It may require shading later to give the full effect, but I'll probably save that for the highlights layer. I probably shouldn't be spending time on this now, but I count it as part of the base color layer. Process. Try to get some of those shadows in now so I see how it looks. Whether or not I need to take a different approach. But I think it works pretty well. A lot of little refinement. Line work is pretty sloppy, hard to control. But now I can save some time by selecting and duplicating and transforming that bracelet to transpose the spikes over onto the other one so that I don't have to do that whole process all over again. And need some tweaking to know. Save me some time. I can just make the fit in the place. Looks weird. They look too big. They should look a little bit smaller, being that they are slightly farther away from the viewer than the first bracelet. Maybe I can come back later and do something about that. No, that'll do, pig. That'll do. So, still not happy with the flower. Still going against my own rule about savoring the light and shadow rendering to the end. And I am casting half of this medallion in shadow with a little bit more 3D effect. Still got a little bit of that edge I made before, but not much. Maybe I should reinforce that. I don't know. But it's coming along. 100% attitude. This Ivysaur is not having any of your crap today. But it will make you a Frappuccino, half cap, mocha whip, and day to go. And that's it for today, folks. Maybe in the next one I can actually manage to finish the drawing. We'll see. It's never really finished. There's always something that just bugs me and I want to change, and I just can't keep my focus. But we'll get there someday. If I don't get distracted too much. Alright. See you in the next